Necromunda, also known as Irenaeus Prime, is one of the most notorious imperial hive worlds in the 41st millennium. It is an hellhole of rusted scrap metal, choking fumes and desperation. But what if I told you it wasn't just science fiction? Across our Earth there are places so polluted, overpopulated and crime-ridden that they make the underhive look tame. Polluted sprawl, toxic wastelands, and gang-ruled slums, our world is already home to real-life underhives. Today, we're diving into the places where law is a myth, survival is a daily battle, and the very air you breathe is a poisonous fume. Norilsk, Russia, the poisoned hive forge. Hidden deep in the Arctic Circle, Norilsk is a nightmare of industry and ice. Built by Gulag prisoners in the 1930s, this city is responsible for 1/5 of the world's nickel production, but at a horrific cost. Life expectancy here is drastically lower due to extreme pollution. The city is drenched in acid rain, toxic smog, and heavy metals that have wiped out all plant life for hundreds of kilometers. Winters here are 9 months long, with temperatures plummeting to -50 degrees Celsius, trapping residents in a world of darkness, smoke, and ice. Norilsk is the embodiment of a 41st millennium forge world where the air is unbreathable, labor is brutal, and industry never stops. It's House Orlok's wet dream, a place where workers are little more than expendable cogs in the great machine of industry. Agbogbloshie, Ghana, the scrap pits of Necromunda. Welcome to one of the most toxic places on Earth. Agbogbloshie is a global dumping ground where millions of tons of e-waste are dismantled and burned every year. Workers, including small children as young as 5, breathe in toxic fumes from melting circuit boards, poisoning themselves with mercury, lead, and arsenic. The rivers and soil are saturated with heavy metals, and life expectancy in this area is shockingly low. Agbogbloshie is a real-world underhive sump scrap where scavengers sift through the refuse of richer nations. If House Cawdor needed a secret scrapyard, this is exactly what it would be like. A dystopian nightmare where people risk death for a few salvaged creds. Rocinha, Brazil, the favela stronghold. Rocinha is one of the largest favelas in the world, a city within a city where the government holds little power and criminal factions rule the streets. Built up vertically, homes and pathways stack on top of each other, forming a labyrinth where only locals know the way. Heavily armed drug cartels control entire sectors, enforcing their own brutal justice. At night, rooftop shooters, hidden tunnels, and secret pathways turn the favela into a fortress. This could be the Spire's outer wall settlements and shantytowns. The complex layout, improvised construction, and gang rulership are exactly how a lawless sector of the Outlands would function. Dharavi, India, the mega-slum metropolis. Dharavi is one of the most densely populated places on Earth, a sprawling slum city where industry and poverty exist side by side. 1 million people live in just a few square kilometers, forming a chaotic but self-sustaining ecosystem. Factories operate inside tiny homes, producing everything from textiles to pharmaceuticals, some legal, some not. Open sewers and disease outbreaks are common, yet the community survives through resilience and underground economies. Dharavi is the lifeblood of the underhive, where House Escher's chem labs operate next to rogue dock workshops and cybernetic chop shops. It's a lawless sprawl where the strong thrive and the weak disappear. Cité Soleil, Haiti, the gang-ruled war zone. Cité Soleil isn't just poor, it's a battlefield. Gangs are the only real authority here, with rival factions fighting for control of resources, neighborhoods, and even water. Police and government forces don't even dare to enter some areas. Warriors of all ages, including children, patrol with AK-47s, enforcing brutal street justice. Electricity and clean water are luxuries, and the only law is violence. Cité Soleil is like a scabby stronghold, a lawless hellhole where hive scum and outcasts wage proxy wars. The Chernobyl exclusion zone, Ukraine, the ghost city. Once a thriving Soviet city, Pripyat was abandoned overnight in 1986 after the Chernobyl nuclear disaster. The people left, but the radiation remained, turning this once bustling urban centre into a crumbling ghostly ruin, slowly being reclaimed by nature. Decaying factories, half-built apartment blocks, and crumbling infrastructure stand frozen in time. Some areas still emit dangerous levels of radiation, meaning that only scavengers, black market tour guides, and the truly desperate dare to enter. There are even mutations among the wildlife, with animals displaying deformities and resistance to radiation. Chernobyl is a vision of what happens when a hive sector is abandoned, much like Hive Secundus, the kind of place where mutants, rogue psychers, and gene-spliced horrors would hide from the imperial authorities. Imagine scavvies squatting in the ruins, dodging corpse-grinder cultists and enforcer squads, while trying to loot forgotten treasures from a doomed past. Kibera, Kenya, the endless shantytown. Kibera is one of the largest slums in Africa, a chaotic, sprawling city within a city that has grown without planning, governance, or infrastructure. With no official sewage system, waste flows through the streets, mixing with the stench of open-air cooking fires. The electricity grid is hacked together with stolen cables, creating a patchwork network where electrocutions are common. Crime is rampant, but local communities enforce their own rules, often more effectively than law enforcement ever could. Kibera again mirrors the true underhive, where the Imperium's bureaucracy has forgotten entire populations, leaving them to survive on their own in the darkness. It's a self-sustaining hive sector where guild-backed merchants and local gang lords fill the power vacuum. House Cawdor would feel right at home here, spreading faith among the desperate while extorting credits from the weak. The Aral Sea, Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan, the sea that died. Once one of the world's largest lakes, the Aral Sea was drained by Soviet irrigation projects, leaving behind a toxic, arid wasteland. What remains is a graveyard of rusting ships buried in the desert like the bones of long-dead leviathans. The former seabed is a barren wasteland, poisoned by chemicals and pesticides that have turned the dust into a lethal toxin when stirred up by storms. Entire fishing towns were left abandoned, with rusting skeletons of boats sitting where the water once lapped at their hulls. The surrounding region is plagued by economic collapse, disease and despair, as generations of people who relied on the sea for survival were left to rot. This is the Ash Wastes, in all but name. Nomadic gangs, raiders and desperate settlers would battle over the last drops of drinkable water, while House Orlok trade convoys risk their lives crossing the toxic dunes. Picture Goliath war rigs tearing across the wastes, their engines kicking up black clouds of dust as they hunt down rivals in this dead world. Orangi Town, Karachi, Pakistan, the self-built mega-slum. Orangi Town is one of the largest unplanned urban settlements, a place where the government has failed completely and the people have built their own civilization from the ground up. Electricity is stolen from the grid, water is transported by hand, and infrastructure is entirely self-made. It is an hub of illegal activity where black market industries thrive and disputes are settled with cash, muscle, or bullets. The streets are a hectic maze, making it nearly impossible for outsiders to navigate without a guide or a gang escort. This is a lower hive sector at its purest, where the enforcers have simply given up, and the people make their own rules. Imagine a House Goliath-controlled district where the strong rule by brute force and the weak have to pay for protection or become prey. Orangi Town is what happens when the Imperium turns its back on the population and leaves them to fend for themselves. Linfen, China, the coal-choked hellscape. Linfen was once labelled the most polluted city on Earth, a place where breathing the air was equivalent to smoking dozens of cigarettes a day. Fueled by China's massive coal industry, Linfen became a vision of industrial apocalypse, where people struggle to breathe under a permanent cloud of black smog. The rivers run thick with coal sludge, staining everything in their path black. Sunlight is a rare sight as the thick industrial smog blocks out the sky. People wear masks just to step outside, yet still suffer from horrific respiratory diseases. Linfen is a perfect example of a Necromundan manufactorum, where workers are born into lives of endless toil, their lungs sacrificed to the industry that keeps the Imperium running. This is House Orlok's domain, a world where the air itself is just another killer lurking in the dark. We think of Necromunda as a dystopian nightmare, a grim, dark vision of the future where life is cheap and suffering is endless. But the truth is, the Underhive isn't some far-off fantasy. It's already here. From the ash wastes to the spires of the hive cities, these real-world hellscapes prove that the Imperium of Man might not be as fictional as we'd like to believe.